Hello, I hope you're doing well today. My name is Ian Green, and I'm the musician for Music Dreams and also for Ian J. Green. And it's my pleasure here today to work on Unit 8, Part 1, through the Royal Conservatory of Music Level 9 Harmony course. Let me share my screen and we can work on this material together. Now, in this unit, we'll be discussing a variety of different topics in a couple of different parts. But the first part today is to outline the basics of the dominant seventh chord, or also known as V7 or 5/7, and the important things to think about, especially when thinking about inversions of these chords. Now, when we think about the inversions of a dominant seventh chord, we want to think about the root of the chord being the fifth note of the particular scale that you're in. So let's say we're in the scale of C major, then the fifth note of that scale would be G. And so the root of the dominant seventh chord is G. Now, when we create the dominant seventh chord, we use the major triad that starts on the fifth note of that scale. So if we are in the scale of C major, then the fifth note of C major is G, and then a major triad created above G is G, B, and D. Now, if we want to add a seventh on to create the dominant seventh chord with this seventh spelling, we would add an F, which is a minor seventh above the root of the dominant chord. Now, when we have those notes included together, the dominant seventh spelling would be G, B, D, F. Now, when we create inversions of chords, we have different Roman numerals plus also Arabic numerals added together. Now, when we have the dominant seventh chord in first inversion, we have a 6/5 included. A 6 meaning an interval of a sixth above the bass note, and also a 5 meaning a fifth above the bass note. Now, if we're in the scale of A flat major, as in this example, which is a piece by Mr. Franz Schubert, in this measure 3 right here, the dominant seventh chord for A flat major starts on the fifth note, which would be E flat. Then we have G, B flat, and D flat in the dominant seventh chord in root position. Now you can see here in this example, the G is the lowest note, which is the third of the dominant seventh chord. And so all of the notes are written above and continue to spell the dominant seventh chord, but in first inversion, where the G is the lowest note. Then the other notes, the E flat, the D flat, and the B flat, are all written above. Now, a way to tell the difference between any inversions of any chord, or also to tell if the chord is in root position, is to always check to see what the lowest note is of the combination of notes that you see in the musical example you're analyzing or that you're working on. And in this example, the G is the lowest note, but the spelling of the rest of the notes all include the E flat dominant seventh, or E flat 7 chord. Now, when we create the second inversion chord, the second inversion dominant seventh chord would be 5 or V, and then the Arabic numerals 4, 3. Now that would mean then that the fifth of the dominant seventh, in this case B flat, is the lowest note, but the spelling of the rest of the notes would be the same. There would be a G somewhere, an E flat, and a D flat as well. But the B flat, being the lowest note of the chord, helps us to see that the spelling of those notes creates the dominant seventh chord, but with a different note as the lowest note of that particular chord. Now, when we see the dominant seventh chord in third inversion, then the way that we would spell that would be 5 or V, and then 4/2. 4/2 meaning the intervals above that note being a second and a fourth above the lowest note of that chord. In this case, then, the lowest note would be the D flat, which is the seventh. And then we have a second above that, which would be E flat, and then the other notes, B flat and E flat, are included as well as G in some cases. So something that's important is to know the difference between the different dominant seventh chord inversions so that you can see how they work. But also that the initial spelling or the important spelling of that chord and the function of that chord is still the second most important chord in a scale, except that the inversions help us to organize and see how the notes work related to the lowest note and how they work above it. So in other words, we have V or 5-7 like this, which is the root position chord. We have 5 or V6-5 for the first inversion chord. We have V or 5-4-3 for the second inversion chord, and V or 5-4-2 for the third inversion of the dominant seventh chord. So I do hope this information is helpful. It's a pleasure to be here to help you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day as you continue to work on your musical studies. Until we see each other again for another tutorial, thanks for watching and take care.